Hello, my beautiful reader friends. It's Tiffany with an IE. As you can see, welcome back to my channel. Happy President's Day. And the tea turtle shirt that I'm wearing is this burning marshmallow. It says, "I'm fulfilling my destiny." And yeah, today is my friend Howell's birthday, so I thought to do a tribute to him, I would do this sort of fun idea I came up with. So I have, well, I'm borrowing these from another friend, but these are the three Howl's Moving Castle books. This is the first one, Howl's Moving Castle. This is the companion novel, Castle in the Air, and this is the sequel to Howl's Moving Castle, House of Many Ways. And I've watched on YouTube, like there's this one girl, she like Google translates lyrics to songs and then into different languages and then translates it back into English, and they're wild. Like I especially love her rendition of Shape of You by Ed Sheeran because it is pretty hilarious. And then there's also people from Tasty who they try to follow a recipe that's been Google translated like 30 times over or whatever, and it's usually pretty nonsensical as well. So I was like, how can I make this bookish? And yeah, so I kind of tried my hand at this. But yeah, so what I decided to do, because I'm like, it's too long to translate all these books and stuff. So on the back of each book, there's a little synopsis of the book. I decided to take that synopsis and Google translate them into another language and then translate them back into English. But they didn't vary too drastically. So I Google translated them about 6 times in different languages and then translated them back into English. And I will share with you all the different translations that I got. They are quite fun. But first, let me just read the actual synopsis so you know what these books are about. So if you didn't know, Howl's Moving Castle is by Diana Wynne Jones. She was a very popular British author who wrote these very whimsical classic children's tales, and this is actually what inspired the Studio Ghibli film by Hayao Miyazaki. And of course there are a bunch of changes, but I love both the book and the film in their own right. They're separate entities. Anyways, so the synopsis of Howl's Moving Castle is: Sophie has the great misfortune of being the eldest of 3 daughters, destined to fail miserably should she ever leave home to seek her fate. But when she unwittingly attracts the ire of the Witch of the Waste, Sophie finds herself under a horrid spell that transforms her into an old lady. Her only chance at breaking it lies in the ever-moving castle in the hills, the wizard Howl's castle. To untangle the enchantment, Sophie must handle the heartless Howl, strike a bargain with a fire demon, and meet the Witch of the Waste head-on. Along the way, she discovers that there's far more to Howl and herself than first meets the eye. Okay, so I'm gonna put up the translations on the sides here so that you can kind of follow along. I had to do some cropping for some of them, so yeah, I'm gonna figure that out later in editing, but you'll see. Okay, so first I'll do my first translated version where I just picked a language, translated this synopsis into that language, and then copied and pasted that and translated it back into English. So I'll go with that first. And I got: Sophie has the great misfortune of being the eldest son of 3 daughters and is destined to fail miserably if she leaves home in search of fate. But when she unknowingly attracts the wrath of her wilderness witch, Sophie finds herself under a horrifying spell that turns her into her old lady. The only chance she has to break it is at Wizard Howl's castle, a constantly moving castle on the hill. To unlock her enchantment, Sophie must deal with the ruthless Howl, lowercase, negotiate with the fire devil, and meet the Witch of the Waste head-on. Along the way, she discovers in Howl and in herself much more than she first sees. Now, besides her being the eldest son of three daughters, which doesn't make sense. That one's pretty accurate. Now, let's see what happens when you translate quite a few times. This is my second translated version of it, which I translated into like 6 different languages and then back to English. And yeah, it was pretty intense. So here we go. Unfortunately, as the eldest of 3 daughters, Sophie has to be very submissive if she leaves home to pursue her future. But when she unknowingly sucks the wild witch's anger, Sophie is found to have a problem that makes her an elderly mother. The only chance he has to break into is Howling Wizard's castle in a stable on a hill. To unlock the magic, Sophie must experience constant crying, conversation with a fiery demon, and face-to-face contact with witches. Along the way, you'll find that he and Hal are much older than you first met. So there's some typos in this one, but it's pretty funny. Okay, the next one is Castle in the Air, and the synopsis reads, young merchant Abdullah leads a humble life, or he did until a stranger sold him a threadbare and disagreeable magic carpet. Now Abdullah is caught in the middle of his grand daydreams. Waking one night in a luxurious garden, he meets and falls instantly in love with the beautiful and clever flower in the night. But a wicked jinn sweeps the princess away right before Abdullah's eyes, leaving the young man no choice but to follow. This is no ordinary quest, however, for Flower in the Night isn't all the jinn has stolen. Abdullah will have the so-called help of the cantankerous carpet, a cranky genie in a bottle, a dishonest soldier, and a very opinionated black cat. Will this motley crew be able to find the jinn's mysterious dwelling and rescue a castle full of princesses? Okay, so here is the first translation. Young merchant Abdullah lives a modest life, or he did it until a stranger sold him a shabby and hateful magic rug. Now Abdullah is stuck in the middle of a great daydream. Waking up one night in a lavish garden, he instantly meets and falls in love with a beautiful and intelligent flower in the night. But the evil jinn sweeps the princess away before the eyes of Abdullah, leaving the young man no choice but to follow him. However, this is not an ordinary task, because a flower in the night is not all that the jinn has stolen. Abdullah will get what's called, with the help of a sinister rug, an eccentric genie in a bottle, a dishonest soldier, and a very determined black cat. Will this diverse crew find the mysterious elven abode and save a castle full of princesses? Now, that one's kind of interesting. The second translation for this was pretty funny, so let me read you that. Abdullah, a young businessman, lived a simple life, or he did until a stranger sold him a dubious and dull magic rug. Now Abdullah is lost in thought. Waking up one night in a beautiful garden, they soon meet and fall in love with the beautiful and wise flowers of the night. But the evil jinn took the princess in front of Abdullah, and the young man had no choice but to obey her. But this is not a natural function. It wasn't just night flowers that jinn stole. Abdullah will get so-called help from evil rugs, geeks in jars, unfaithful soldiers, and the most determined black cat. Can this diverse group find a grand elven home and maintain a palace full of kings? So yeah, this one's pretty funny. Yeah, and lastly, we have House of Many Ways. So the synopsis reads, when Charmaine Baker agreed to look after her great-uncle's house, she thought she was getting blissful, parent-free time to read. She didn't realize that the house spent space and time, and she did not expect to become responsible for an extremely magical stray dog and a muddled young apprentice wizard. Now, somehow, she's been targeted by a terrifying creature called a Lubbock, too, and become central to the king's urgent search for the fabled elf gift, that will save the country. The king is so desperate to find the elf gift, he's called in an intimidating sorceress named Sophie to help. And where Sophie is, the great wizard Howl and fire demon Calcifer won't be far behind. How did respectable Charmaine end up in such a mess, and how will she get herself out of it? Okay, so here's my first translation of that. When Charmaine Baker agreed to take care of her great-uncle's house, she thought she had some free time to read. She didn't realize that the house was bending space and time, and she didn't expect to become responsible for an extremely magical stray dog and a confused young sorcerer's apprentice. Now, somehow, she's also been targeted by a terrifying creature called the Lubbock, and has become a central part of the king's urgent search for the legendary elf gift that will save the land. The king is so desperate to find the elf gift that he enlists an intimidating witch named Sophie to help him, and where Sophie is, the high wizard Howl and the fire demon Calcifer won't be far behind. How did the respectable Charmaine get into such a mess, and how will she get out of it? So this one's pretty straightforward, but my second translation of this is pretty hilarious. So it reads, when Charmaine Baker agreed to take care of her grandmother's house, she thought she had enough time to read. Like she's on a deadline or something. He didn't realize that the house was a mess, and he didn't think he would be responsible for teaching the little witch, the lost witch. Gender swapping. Now, for some reason, you've also been targeted by the terrifying Lubbock creature. Crucial to the king's quest to find the famous gift to save the planet. The king desperately wanted a gift from the dwarves, so he turned to a terrible witch named Sophie for help. And where is Sophie? The cry of the sorcerer and Calcifer of the fire demon were not long in coming. How did the noble Charmaine get into such a predicament, and how did she manage to get out of it? Okay, so yeah. Thanks for sticking around to listen to this silly video, and I hope to do more videos like this, Google translating other things, maybe like picture books and stuff, since those are a lot shorter. And I will link the videos that I mentioned and also the books that I've mentioned in the description down below, so be sure to check that out, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!